Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight in our news.
The Valley Boys on a high after winning the New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade.
Marital rape legislation has to be placed on the back burner. We have the details straight ahead.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight. After bringing church to Bay Street, the Valley Boys walked away with the bragging rights yesterday. And despite stiff competition from returning Boxing Day champs and a hungry Saxons group, the Valley Boys managed to reclaim its top spot and, according to the group's chairman, has its eyes set on a repeat. Kyle Joaquin has more.
Take a look at this turkey here. After years of major disappointment, this big bird here played a major role in the Valley Boys taking home the top prize in the 2019 New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade. After executing the theme, we give God thanks and total praise, the Valley Boys closed out their 60th year as a Junkanoo group as #1.
We're focused on repeating because there's something about winning you want to have a streak.
All right, Mr. Ali.
So we're looking for 3 this year.
You're looking for 3?
3 straight, yeah.
Valley Boys chairman Brian Adderley said despite being 12 months away, their eyes are already on bringing home the bacon with a 2019 Boxing Day Parade win. The group managed to clinch the win with a score of 86.95 points, just 0.6 points above third-place finishers, the Shell Saxon Superstars, who were hoping for a comeback after a disappointing 5th-place finish on Boxing Day. For the Valley Boys, Adderley said the win is a big deal.
A few years ago, we won the USA Parade, and those results were overturned, which was very disappointing and shocking to us. And so since then, we've been very focused on winning. Last year, we weren't as successful as we wanted to be. But this year, we actually started planning and preparing a year ago today, January the 2nd.
And it certainly paid off. The group went home with Best Performance, Best Music, and Best Choreography.
We had a little pre-victory celebration last night, and you should have seen the looks on the young men and young women faces. They feel good, and they want to feel like that again. So we're going to do some preparation to ensure that we win again.
For the first time in months, the shack is empty. Just some old costumes and banner pieces scattered about as Junkanooers have gone home and back to work. But Adderley says their opponents shouldn't sleep on them just yet.
Once we're right, we know nobody could beat us. I'm not concerned about the competition. We just have to do what we have to do.
Over at the group's Claridge Road shack, the scene was the same. No one there except Cleveland Knowles, who had this word for any Valley Boys haters who have ever doubted the group.
They said us, told us, we don't has no music. We came back, we go on a fish fry, we jump in the chessbook down the garden, bus up day. Hot, and we come back again, we had no costume. So I said, okay, we gonna cut Barn Jack and ditch out Queen, put a switch on the world I've ever seen. It wasn't something I told you.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. There could be a major change for the New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade. That's according to Chairman of the Junkanoo Corporation of New Providence, Silbert Ferguson, who says the traditional low attendance has prompted officials to consider a new parade date and paid television viewing. Jasmine Brown explains in this report.
Ferguson explaining to our news team that dwindling ticket sales for the New Year's Day parade is prompting that discussion that has been going on for years.
This is like the third or fourth year in a row that we are hovering right under 60% for the New Year's Day parade. So we have to start to look at ways that either we can improve that, or perhaps there's going to be an opportunity for the JCNP to perhaps move their New Year's Day parade.
Ferguson says the parade should not be moved too far and suggested just a few weeks later would work. In fact, he said Majority Rule Day would be a perfect option.
January the 10th or whatever, to give persons an opportunity to come out like 3 weeks later instead of 1 week later.
And those aren't the only changes being contemplated.
There's also been a conversation that we need to probably go to a pay-per-view system on a New Year's Day. So persons who want to watch it at home, will probably pay a small fee and that will give us the opportunity to raise those funds.
Ticket sales usually slump for the New Year's Day parade, but Ferguson said over the last 4 years, nearly half of the 8,300 seats were empty.
We sold a little over, I think it was 4,700 seats for the parade. The arena has, I think, roughly about 8,300 seats. And so we had the opportunity to host 57% New Year's Day.
He adds that 50% of overall sales occurred on New Year's Eve, and according to Ferguson, that's a far cry from the Boxing Day parade, which is usually sold out. The JCNP chief says at this time it's only a conversation and no decisions have been made just yet. He says the discussion will continue with the government. In the meantime, Ferguson says the JCNP must find a way to improve ticket sales. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Leaders of two of the major Junkanoo Groups who did not make it to Bay Street to rush in the 2019 New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade are firing back at critics. There have been calls from music makers and prodigal sons to return seed money after they were both disqualified in the Boxing Day Parade and did not show up for yesterday's parade. Their defense comes as JCNP Chairman Sylvia Ferguson insists there is no such thing as a free ride, as he confirmed some of that money has to be returned. Jasmine Brown has all the details in this report.
Leaders of the two Junkanoo Groups that didn't participate in the New Year's parade defend and explain their decision.
This is not a free ride. You know, these parades are expensive, and I think everybody's aware of that.
Ferguson's comments came after music makers and prodigal sons did not participate in the New Year's Day parade. They were also both disqualified from the Boxing Day parade. Ferguson says while he understands the financial constraints placed on both groups who lacked major sponsors, the rules are the rules.
Groups do not keep the seed money. Every group that signs on with the JCNP and the government afford them seed funding, the seed funding is for 2 parades. If you only appear in 1 parade, you are obligated to return 50% of the seed funding to the government. So in the case of an A division group, the government gives $30,000, and if you do not appear in one of those parades, you will have to return $15,000. In the B division, you are afforded $15,000. You appear in one, you return $7,500. You actually sign a contract with the government when you receive the $30,000. That is in writing, and it's clear that if you do not appear, you have to return.
According to Ferguson, both groups would only be obligated to repay $15,000 out of the $30,000 seed money, as they only missed the New Year's Day parade. But the treasurer of the music makers did not see it that way. Perry Thompson insisted they should not be made to pay the money back.
Any sensible Junkanoo will know that, hey, if you, as a group, you're giving funding for both parades, $15,000 both parades, all right, and which is the most money that you receive from anybody and relates to sponsorship for the group. The combined $30,000 we had to use just to get out there to Bay Street. So I'm sure government within itself and with their wisdom, okay, will look into our internal situation as relates to finances, and they will make an adjustment accordingly.
So you don't think you should have to pay that money back?
I don't think so, no.
And if it comes down to it and they said, you know, the rules are the rules, you have to pay this money back, is the music makers willing to pay that money back?
Well, then we'll have to do what is necessary. You know, we believe in abiding by all rules.
Thompson also insisted funding played a major role in the group's shortfalls this Junkanoo season, as they simply could not meet the numbers necessary to qualify as an A group. Based on their experience on Boxing Day, he says a decision was made to miss the New Year's Day parade. It was a similar sentiment shared by Prodigal Sons leader Eric Knowles, who says after being disqualified on Boxing Day because key costumes could not make it onto the parade route, he made a call to skip the New Year's Day parade. As for having to pay back seed money, Knowles says he sees no issue with sticking to the contract.
Well, you have an agreement with the government, right? And if you agreed that, you know, this is you have a contract with the government. If you agree that you're going to do A for A, you basically do it. You understand what I'm saying? If you didn't live up to your obligation, quite naturally, I believe you should give them the money back.
Is Prodigal Sons going to give any of the money back?
Well, if the ministry asks us, well, first of all, we got half of the seed funding, right? But if the ministry is pressing us to give some of that back, then I guess we have to comply, even though we got half of it. That should have been for one parade. which we did.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. As 2018 saw the lowest number of murders since 2009, 2019 got off to a deadly start. The country recorded its first homicide as a man was shot dead after leaving the 2019 New Year's Day Junkanoo parade. Today, his family is mourning the loss and demanding justice.
They say you never feel till it happened to you or know it feel. But God be the glory, great things he has done. He's in a better place. No more worrying if he's in the streets or somebody harming him.
Rosalie Bain appeared to be in a state of shock as she spoke about her son, 19-year-old Terrence Roll Jr., who was gunned down on Market Street on the first day of the year. She says Roll was her youngest child, and he aspired to follow in his father's footsteps.
Was he the baby?
Yes, the last of 4. His birthday will be next month. It'll make him 20. Most likely he want to do what his father does. Work on heavy equipment.
According to police, it was around noon on New Year's Day when Roll, also known as Cokehead, was walking with a group on Market Street near C.R. Walker School. That's when a man approached the group and shot Roll before running away. He was eventually transported to hospital where he died.
Would you say that this is possibly the worst thing that could have happened to you?
Yes, it is. The worst thing, you know, to be called, you went to work and to be called on your job, saying your son go ahead, shot. You know? Ain't nothing worse than that.
A graphic video of the incident began circulating on social media shortly after the shooting. In the video, Roll can be seen lying in a pool of blood with dozens of onlookers nearby and several women praying over him. Roll's mother reacted to that video circulating.
Well, I like how you know it's happened. I saw it happen before. People said around. It touches you to know just how the other person would feel at that time.
Some women were praying over him. Did that comfort you?
Yes, a great deal.
Bain insists that her son didn't deserve to die the way he did.
He was a very humble child. Whenever I tell him to do something, he did. Like most children, you know, they have babies. But the way he gone wasn't called for.
As the government pushes ahead with its legislation to steady the financial services sector, other bills like the marital rape law will have to take a back seat. That coming from Attorney General Carl Bethel, who said social legislation will have to wait for a while. Gillian Gray tells us more.
The controversial marital rape law is on the back burner for a while. As Attorney General Carl Bethel said, there are no decisions of any substance being made right now on those types of issues.
We're not planning our agenda for 2019 right now in terms of social legislation. The emphasis still is on legislation to preserve the Bahamian economy and our way of life. Social legislation has to wait for a while.
His response was a far cry from his July 2018 stance when he told the Nassar Guardian that the bill was basically finished, noting that there was a broad consensus across the civil and religious society on the matter. On the other hand, the Minister of Social Services, Frankie Campbell, said the issue is one his ministry cannot ignore.
The ministry continues to ensure that the conversation is had. I think we're not yet at the point where a decision could be made owing to the delicate, sensitive nature of the subject. We believe that there needs to be more wide consultation, but it is a matter that we cannot ignore.
Civic and religious organizations like the Bahamas Christian Council have all sounded off on the matter, with the BCC proposing that spouses found guilty of forcing their partners to have sex face life in prison.
We have to find a way to marry all of those views to come with a bill that will be acceptable to all.
Last year, the AG told the United Nations Human Rights Council that the Bahamian government intends to criminalize marital rape. With pressure coming from international human rights groups, Campbell said they have reported to the UN's Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women and renewed the Minnis administration's commitment to work on the issue.
We are deficient in some areas, but we also acknowledge upfront that the road to the elimination of discrimination against women is a journey and not a destination, and we're committed to remaining on that journey.
Now again, the Social Services Minister promised that there will be widespread consultation on the matter. And while he did not give a timeline or strategy to tackle the issue, he did say the topic of marital rape will not be ignored. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Till the coming hour news, CH Reeves teachers get their strike certificate. Plus, the AG mum on the topic of the death penalty. That's coming up when our news returns.